morning, Kevin Quinn. Good morning, Tom Hewitt. It is my pleasure to introduce you. Kevin Quinn is the administrator of MDOT MTA. Tom Hewitt is the director of service development with MDOT MTA. So gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, good morning. Thank you, Robin, and a pleasure to be here. We are trying to get our PowerPoint shared. Tom, you are unmuted, brother. And so I know you're trying to get that up and running. I may be able to share my screen. So give me just a second here and we'll see if we can get going. Oh, Holly has taken over. Thank you, Holly.
I mean, somebody has to.
Coming in to save the day. I know. It makes perfect sense. Let's be honest. Okay, well, great. So first of all, thanks so much for having us today. I'm going to give just kind of a brief overview of kind of how things are going at MTA and some projects. I'm going to turn over to Tom to dive into some of the fall service changes. So Holly, why don't you jump in? Yeah, there's the agenda. Cool. All right, great. So COVID-19, let's keep rolling, Holly. So COVID-19, so since we last met, we've done some really cool things at MTA in response to COVID. We were so proud to advocate for and get frontline transit workers included in phase 1C of the governor's vaccination plan. We did roll out this, our on-site vaccination clinic back on February 26th. We vaccinated about 1,200 MTA employees as part of that effort. We did it at our Kirk maintenance facility. Went really well. I was really proud. That picture kind of in the center is me and Union President Mike McMillan. We did, there's just been a lot of hesitation in our workforce about getting vaccinated. And so Mike and I got vaccinated together and really kind of made that public show of solidarity. So really happy about that. And that's going well. And we know that we have lots of other additional employees that are getting vaccinated on their own that did both before this vaccination clinic as well as after. Go ahead, Holly. So just a quick ridership update on kind of where we are. So overall ridership is that dotted black line. It's down about 55%. So core bus is still down about 45. You can see the core bus and our mobility paratransit service is creeping up there, both down about 45%. MARC and commuter bus remain down about 90%. Interesting to note that when you compare April of 2020 to April of 2021, we're up about 30% in ridership overall. And I think that trends along with what other transit agencies are seeing throughout the country. Go ahead. Just wanted to show this. This is interesting. I thought transit just kind of versus other modes. So again, that dotted line is MTA ridership. The blue line is actually BWI passenger traffic. And the top line is statewide traffic volume. So what we've really seen is that statewide traffic volume has recovered faster than transit ridership. That's about 90% of pre-pandemic levels. We've all seen that traffic kind of coming back. And in mid-March, BWI surpassed us. Something that I've shared with this group before, we have just seen the share of core bus ridership has really increased from pre-pandemic levels. And so back in April 2019, core bus represented about 67% of our ridership. In April 2020, which we consider kind of the first COVID month of ridership, it represented about 90% of our ridership, and sitting here today, it's about 81%. Our MARC ridership has declined from what used to be about 11% of our ridership to about 2.5%. So just really interesting changes in, sort of the ridership kind of mode breakdown. So just some quick agency updates on some fun things that we have going on. You may have seen that we had a Riverside groundbreaking for our new MARC maintenance facility. We've got that construction underway. We had that groundbreaking back on Tuesday, the 13th. It's a $64 million facility. We have needed our own MARC maintenance facility for quite some time. Believe it or not, we just haven't had one. All of our maintenance has been done primarily on Amtrak property. And so this really allows us to have some operational flexibility as well as some great independence from Amtrak as we look to contract out who does our maintenance. We've had Amtrak do that for a number of years. So this project is a 35,000 square foot building. a 30-ton overhead crane, a drop table, wheel truing machine. We'll have that operational in a couple of years. Really fantastic project that is a real enabling project for going north, for going south, operational flexibility across the MARC system. So just absolutely thrilled about this. It's been a long time coming. Some light rail track work. You're all probably well aware of this. So we have some track work that started on the 16th. That'll last through September 21st. We are single tracking between Falls Road and Camden Station. It's a good bit of track work. It's reconstruction of 3 interlockings, replacement of about 3,000 feet of rail. We do have a bus bridge that's pinging back and forth. We've been really monitoring some of the complaints with that. We're working out some of the kinks with that. And in the meantime, we have a light rail shuttle that is like a light rail vehicle kind of pinging back and forth at, I think it's around 40 or 50-minute frequencies. So that's why we have that bus bridge in place to try to provide the frequencies that are needed. And we're trying to get the word out as best we can about that. Go ahead. RTP implementation. So our regional transit plan implementation, we've got some really key objectives of getting that short-term infrastructure improvements done, coordinating some regional policies and advancing longer-term projects. And a couple big things that we've announced are 2 transit corridor studies, our north-south corridor between Towson and downtown, east-west corridor between Bayview and Ellicott City. We're taking a look at previous planning studies as part of that, looking for where we can coordinate. We're hoping to get down to 2 to 3 options in those corridors by late 2021, and really encouraging folks to get involved in that project. We have a public survey at rtpcorridors.com, and really encouraging you to get involved. Check that out. Other planning updates, bus shelters. We always get asked about bus shelters. We got 54 bus shelters installed. We got another 100 or so in the design permitting pipeline. And we got another $1 million in funding to continue designing and installing. So more are coming. Dedicated bus lanes. Some of them are looking a little more busted than usual. And so we got some repainting that's going to begin after July 4th. And so we're really excited to get that underway now that the weather's warming up. We'll be doing some painting as well on North Avenue. That'll be completed this summer with enforcement to begin kind of late in the summer. We are pursuing a RAISE grant. This is the former Tiger, former Build grant, and doing that in partnership with Baltimore City DOT. We're focused on a couple projects. One is transit priority investments and some bike ped infrastructure in that east-west corridor. Try to get some momentum on that now, try to get some short-term improvements now on that. And that would support about $50 million of investment on the blue and the orange routes. We've also submitted some earmark requests for additional funding. You may have seen in the paper that they're starting earmarks up again. And so we put in some requests for that RAISE East-West Corridor project, some access improvements around Penn Station, a lot of development going on there, as well as investment in some dual mode locomotives, the design of those locomotives to support a new BNP tunnel, which we're also in some good conversations with Amtrak about. Kirk, so we have one of our bus divisions. We have 4 bus divisions around the city. Kirk Bus Division is one of them, and we're really excited. We're in the process right now of just finishing up this brand new $80 million facility. It's going to accommodate 175 buses, 180,000 square feet of improved bus storage, all enclosed storage, undercover, which really addresses community concerns that have been out there for years related to bus visibility, noise, emissions, things like that. And we're hoping to do a ribbon cutting for that in mid to late June. Really excited for that one. That's going to be a big improvement for us. Another one that we are just moving forward with, if all of that wasn't enough, is our transition to zero emission vehicles. So we have a goal of transitioning to zero emission vehicles, 50% of zero emission vehicles by 2030, hit 95% by 2045. We will have no more diesel procurements after FY23. So really, as we finish up our current bus contract, our next bus procurement that we do will be for zero emission vehicles. We're really taking a look at our strategy, which is taking a look especially at workforce consideration, training, some of our standard operating procedures that we have around maintenance, and really coordinating with the union on this. We've got to do communications around the agency, service and scheduling. Tom is going to have his hands full figuring this out, and the utilities and infrastructure. There's a lot of focus on the buses, the bus part of this. People kind of see that bus, going down the street, and they think, oh, it's just, buying an electric bus. I'll tell you right now, the money that is needed for this is in the infrastructure. It's the charging infrastructure that's at all of our facilities that needs to be put in place. and the upgrade of all sorts of subsystems. It's a pretty tremendous undertaking. We'll be running our first pilot out of the Kirk bus division. We'll be having 4 40-foot battery electric buses, 3 60-foot buses with some overhead chargers. So you'll be seeing those in 2022 out on the street. We're excited about that one. That's gonna be really cool. And a couple of awards that we've won recently, some cool stuff. So we received 2 Health and Safety Awards of Excellence from the State Employee Risk Management Association. One is for our Bus Operations Performance Squad, which we've talked about here and there over the years, which is our group that gets together every 2 weeks to really dive in and analyze bus performance. The chart there on the bottom right, that red line is our traffic citations, and specifically red light citations. And you can see we have dramatically decreased our red light citations, decreased by 50% between 2019 and 2020 through a series of initiatives that we did: safety campaign, traffic hotspots, a discipline policy, some safety monitoring by our field supervision, but a really good safety undertaking that we have. We've also reorganized our CCTV process. So it's resulted in a reduction of workers' compensation claims. So that has to do with sort of how we pull video off of buses. And we put some additional resources into that because we saw that we needed to do some things to fix that. So we've seen lost time days continuing to trend down on that. So 2 awards, pretty cool. I think this is my last one. So before I turn it over to Tom, just to go into the service changes, part of our service change includes a couple of proposed fare policy changes. So one of those is the elimination of an express bus surcharge. So many of you know that our express bus has a 60-cent surcharge. We were taking a look at that, and really as we enter kind of a post-pandemic world, we really want to have equity in our fare structure. And so we want to break down any barriers that exist to getting on the bus, and this was kind of a no-brainer for us. It aligns the express bus with core bus fares, so we're proposing to eliminate that extra surcharge that you pay to get on express buses. Also, in recognition that people's commuting patterns are changing, we're proposing 2 new fare products that are multi-ticket options. So what we're offering is a 3-day and a 10-day pass, sort of a pack that's available through Charm Pass, and it's valid up for a year. You can use it on consecutive, non-consecutive days. We've discounted it at 15%. And really, this is just, again, in recognition of the fact that a lot of people aren't coming into work, say 5 days a week. So before, if you were buying a weekly pass, you paid the same price for that, whether you used 1 day or every day of that weekly pass. We're trying to give some flexible options. So if you come in 2 days 1 week and 1 day the next week, you've got that available to you. And oh, this is a really cool thing. I'm really excited about this. So other systems have done this. This is real-time capacity data. So we talked about this with our Bus USA project. We finally have that capability on our buses to roll out in real time on the transit app how crowded our buses are. So right now it's currently enabled in the transit app, but it relies on the self-reporting Go feature. And that's really grabs only a small sample of riders. Not everybody uses it. Probably some folks in this group use that, but it's really self-reported right now. So with our new automated passenger counter hardwares that are on the buses, we're going to be able to count those passengers and display that information in real time on the transit app. And so we're going to have sort of 3 levels of sort of not crowded, some crowded, some crowding, crowded. And we've given kind of the occupancy percentages there. We've been looking at what other agencies around the country are doing around this, but really excited to do this now that we have the technology on the buses. You'll see, we'll probably do a kind of a pilot launch for that sometime in June. But that's a really cool one we've been excited for some time. All right, I think I've talked enough. Oh God, well, tomorrow's Bike to Work Day. We're gonna be making a big announcement at Camden Station around bikes and MARC trains. I'm not allowed to say any more about it, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But we have a big announcement that we're coming out with tomorrow, so stay tuned on that. All right, Tom, I've gone through my stuff as fast as I can. I'm handing it over to you, brother.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Hewitt, Director of Service Development for Maryland Transit Administration. I want to be going over some of the, upcoming service changes and really just talk about this idea about this annual service plan. When we put together these service change packages, we try to look in advance, especially a year in advance. It's not like we're planning for just the next change and that's it. We want to make sure we have enough resources and we're changing with the times. And oh boy, has the times changed in the past couple of years, especially with last year. The 2021 annual service plan was difficult, especially because of the unknowns with COVID. But we really knew as a transit agency, especially with core bus, what we needed to focus on. And, prioritizing access and equity, we always hear about essential workers and the people in places that need transit the most. And that's really what we wanted to focus on. The folks that need transit, they don't have other options. They're, less likely to telecommute. And we really wanted to look at the data and understand through, discussions with the public, with advocates, how we can improve access and the equity perspective. Also, we always look at improving reliability and reducing travel times. These are always things that, enhance transit and get people to get back on transit. You want a reliable service, and with less traffic on the road and less people, less riders, we saw a lot of earlies, and we continue to see a lot of earlies. So this year, starting with the summer pick that'll be coming up on June 20th, we're going to be significantly making modifications to run times. So we'll improve the reliability of service, and then I'll talk about one of the proposals for fall that will be reducing travel times for folks in West Baltimore and East Baltimore. And then lastly, with the plan, we have, a finite amount of resources, and we want to make sure that we're funneling those resources to where it's needed the most. So we continue to monitor crowding and adjust the levels of service to match demand. Whether it's reducing service on a route to be putting service elsewhere, whether it's adding additional tripper service, we want to be able to be flexible in our operations because, as more people are vaccinated, as things start to open up and we get back to normal, we want to make sure that we have a transit agent or core bus schedule and system that is accommodating these different crowds. Next slide. So, when it comes to service levels and ridership, not every route is the same. We see some of the routes like, the Local Link 63 to Trade Point and also to Amazon, the Local Link 56, which goes to Johns Hopkins Hospital, between downtown and White Marsh, and some other CityLink lines, including the pink, yellow, purple, blue. These all have about 60 to 70% of pre-pandemic ridership levels. So we're seeing a higher number of folks going back to these routes, and it makes sense because they're going to job centers, they're going to essential employment locations, and we want to make sure that we're matching service levels, whether we need trippers or not. But on the flip side, there are routes that haven't really rebounded as well. The Local Link 52, the Local Link 94, these are routes that are only about 40% to 50% of pre-pandemic levels. So we want to make sure we're monitoring service and adjusting accordingly. And that's, as we go into the summer service change, that will be effective on Sunday, June 20th. And you'll see some substantial changes to schedules just based on run times. We've been taking out about 10% of run times system-wide. And, on average, that's about 3 minutes, but that's a difference between a bus coming early and a bus being on time. So we want to make sure we're, making adjustments for the summer, and then ultimately, when we have the major service change this upcoming fall. And that's what we're going to go into for the bulk of this presentation. But then it's also important to note, like, even though we're talking about this fall, we still have, we developed countless, route proposals and service proposals throughout this past year and a half. And some of them we couldn't do because of resources, but that doesn't mean they're gone forever. So we are, we always have this kind of bucket of proposals that we look at, and we, basing on what are the needs, what are the needs of the community, what are the needs of the region, and what are the resources that we have available to make these changes. So, if the proposal that maybe you put in wasn't in this fall proposal package, don't worry, because it always could come back in following years, and we're doing that right now with the 2022 preparation. Next slide. So the fall major service change, the timeline, it's whenever we have a major service change, it's really a year process. We start at the end of the previous change. So when we have our fall changes in the, late August, early September, right after that, September, October, we start to go into analysis mode, and we start looking at, all of the facets of the routes and the service and how we can make improvements based on feedback, whether it's from the public, whether it's from operators, and just our internal studies and analysis. So when we get there in January, we start to put the proposal together, but then it really starts to heat up in March. And that's, how it happened this year. We had this proposal package. We wanted to make sure that we were addressing the needs of the region as much as we could. So we put out the proposal, and it was released on April 16th. So there has been this 30-day notice. And this Saturday will be our first round of public hearings for the proposal. So we're looking forward to getting a lot of feedback. And then after that, we have 30 days still of the comment period. It will close about the end of June on the 25th. So right after that summer service change. And then we'll be looking at comments, doing more analysis, like I said, on ridership, and looking at, where we can, utilize resources the most efficiently in the best way possible. And then we'll be putting the final proposal, or the final release of the changes towards the end of July, again, with the effective date being August 29th of 2021. Next slide. So for the fall proposal, again, we had a lot of different options and weighing the different facets of this proposal and how we can improve transit service, especially core bus. We came upon these specific changes that really, highlight, this fall package. Job access was always a big one, so we've heard from the community on realigning the local link 93, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. On the flip side, though, there's also, resource issues, and we want to make sure we're utilizing our service as efficiently as possible. So the 164 is proposed to be discontinued. We'll go into some detail on that, as well as the pilot to Guinness, to Relay. This was a pilot that started almost a year and a half ago. And, based on our metrics and measures, it didn't really pan out. So we're proposing to discontinue that. But then the big piece is the package that includes the realignment of the 63 and the proposal for a brand new express route, the Express Bus Link 163, which we'll go into some details in a bit. Next slide. So the 93, this is fairly straightforward. We wanted to make sure we heard from the community, we heard from some elected officials and advocates that the access to the Walmart up in Cockeysville on York Road wasn't there for transit. On the map, when the 93 goes north, there's a pocket of garden apartments and middle income housing that we still need to serve. And people see the 93 and they're like, how come you just don't go up York Road? Well, we want to make sure we're serving where the people are. And in addition to that, though, we saw a big gap in access to a business and a job, job opportunities in Walmart, as well as the Home Depot on Industry Lane. So this is a fairly straightforward, deviation from the route. There are a couple stops that are impacted, but just because they're on the corner of Warren Road and York Road, that segment highlighted in red, there are no other stops except for the ones on that intersection. And we'll be adding more stops. We're working with the county to add stops in front of the Walmart, and then also on Industry Lane. So it'll be providing better connections for the 93 and the riders that use that service. Next slide. The 164, we hate having to discontinue routes, but we also understand as a transit agency, we have to be, we have to be efficient. We have to be prudent with our resources. And the 164 has honestly been on the chopping block for a couple of years, even pre-pandemic. The ridership is extremely low, and there is duplicative service, whether it's from downtown to Curtis Bay on the CityLink Silver or the 67, or folks taking the 67 down to Energy Parkway, Brandon Woods, Marley Neck area. Only about 3 people might be impacted with the service to Riviera Beach. But again, that number is very small, and there's duplicative service for a majority of this corridor. Next slide. The yellow, like I mentioned, this was discontinuing the branch down to Relay. Again, very low ridership. We had about 8 8-9 boardings per day. And with the 8 or 9 trips that we had, it really equated to be about, a person per bus down to that service. And this is an interesting case study in providing too much service to the point where the yellow looked to be inefficient. Yes, Washington Boulevard is a heavy corridor for ridership, but the remaining CityLink yellow lines and those patterns to UMBC and to Patapsco Light Rail Station will remain. We're just going to be taking out the trips between downtown and Relay, and again, to improve efficiency and to reallocate resources in a better way. So the 63 and the 163, this is the main showpiece for the proposal. It involves a lot with regards to a modification to a route. I know there's been some discussion about Eastern Ave and getting rid of service on the 63 and Eastern Ave, but I do want to remind folks, when we put out the 63, we know Johns Hopkins Bayview is a major hub of ours, and being able to provide the service in the most efficient way, to not have duplication when we can't, but then also to address some of the equity and some of the travel time needs of the region. And, this was where we had to put all these factors together within the same bucket of resources we have. And, that's how we came up with this proposal. But very similar, if folks remember, the 63 proposal a few years ago when we provided options, whether it was Eastern Ave or Boston Street. So we wanted to do a very similar thing because, there's many different ways to solve a similar problem in transit. And when it comes to route alignments, you have to look at things such as access, who's being able to provide, gain access to a modification, as well as travel times. And so when we started putting this package together, it became clear that, modification to the 63, going up to Northeast Baltimore would be beneficial, as well as creating this brand new express route. And on top of the whole, eliminating the express bus fare, we think the 163 is going to be a big winner. We're going to go into some more details there. But, the important thing here is we do provide options. There are 3 options for the 63, and there are 2 different options for the 163 that we, are hoping to get some good feedback on during our public hearings. Next slide. So the 163, getting into a little bit more detail. Again, there's 3 different alignments with service up to Gardenville. We have a park and ride lot up there. It's not utilized at the current moment beyond just being a stop off of Bel Air Road. So we want to make sure we're utilizing, our facilities. And again, there's high demand with an improved connection to Trade Point. The 63 is right now the only route that serves Trade Point Atlantic. And we know with the, thousands of jobs that are there and 1,000 more that are coming online this year, that we have to be able to provide more options. And this was just one way of doing that. So the different options really just balance off between access, like I said previously, access and who's gaining access to, looking at travel times and looking at connections. This area too, the Bel Air Edison neighborhood, this was one of the neighborhoods that was outlined not only in the Baltimore City Transit Equity Study, but also CMTA's 2020 report card. So, we're trying to look at where people need access to jobs the most. And, being a major, not only with Johns Hopkins Bayview campus, but also with Trade Point Atlantic, it provides better connections for folks in Northeast Baltimore. Next slide. And, looking at the numbers, and this is where, kind of peeling back the service planning, part of this, and looking at the different numbers that when we are providing service. And again, this is only the local link 63 access. This is not system wide. So when you think about it, think about, access to Trade Point, and even Bayview. But looking at the different alternatives, there's a fairly clear winner here about, where we gain improvements. And, when you're talking about not only a 11% increase in population access, but 109% increase in minority population, a 39% increase in low-income households, and a 28% increase in zero-car households. That really, that really showed us, okay, we have the clear preferred alternative. And again, we're curious to see what the public thinks about the other alignments, because the other 2 go either next to or through Armistead Gardens, that community. We do have service on the 59 that goes between Armistead Gardens down to Bayview, so it's not like they're out, completely out. But this is just for us to pretty straightforward in what our preferred alternative is. Next slide, please. The 163. So this is a brand new route, providing direct a one-seat ride from our West Baltimore MARC station through downtown, hopping on the highway, and then going through the tunnel, taking the first exit, and then being able to serve not only Trade Point, but the other Amazon facilities on Holabird and Burring Highway, and then also some of the marine businesses on Burring Highway, if that alternative is the selected one. Again, this is faster, more efficient for folks traveling from downtown as well as from West Baltimore. It's really important because, yes, we're working with the city and the county on transit priority improvements, but really at the end of the day, we have to look at different service types, and it's not just having a local service. Yes, in dedicated bus lanes, transit priority infrastructure, that will be huge, and I'm part of that team that we're advocating for that. But looking at other service types, being an express service, because we know a large group of people need to get from point A to point B, from downtown and parts west of it to Trade Point. So that's how really this route came online. It's again this new one-seat ride and provides better connections. Next slide. And again, looking at the two different options, with the access for the marine businesses and the other Amazon facilities on Burring Highway, this is our preferred alternative. A is using Burring Highway. Fairly close though. This was one where it was close to being a coin flip, whether you were going down Holabird Ave to Dundalk or Dundalk Ave versus using Burring Highway. But again, in the spirit of access to jobs and employment opportunities, our preference is the Burring Highway alignment. Next slide. And then lastly, it's important with travel time savings. Again, these are preliminary. We're going to be running some more runtime trials, especially on 95 and 395. We have some data from the 120, for example, but we want to make sure we get it right and we improve the reliability. But some of these travel time reductions, 18, 19 minutes in midday, PM peak, whether it's between Gardenville Park and Ride or even West Baltimore MARC Station. That's a huge improvement. And I mean, folks, you still see the 2-minute improvement, the 3-minute improvement in travel times. And it's just important to note that even though those 2 to 6 minutes is just per trip, when you start factoring that in annually, a person who's going to their job 5 days a week, it'll spend between 25 and 50 less hours on the bus. So when you're looking at it from an annual perspective, it is a big improvement. But then, of course, we want to make sure that we're overall improving travel times, and this is a way to get people from neighborhoods West Baltimore and neighborhoods in East Baltimore down to Trade Point faster and more efficiently. And I think that should be it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, let me just close out real quick here, Robin. So first, I just want to note that we do want your feedback. And so, we do have public hearings beginning Saturday. That public comment period lasts 30 days from our final public hearing. So that public comment period does last through June 25th. So plenty of time to get your comments in, which we really value and really want. Also, kind of elephant in the room that I'll address is that I will be leaving MTA. So for those of you that have not heard, I'll be leaving MTA. I'm accepting a position as CEO of TransLink in Vancouver. And so my last day with MTA will be June 4th. It's actually 2 days shy of what would have been my 4-year anniversary sort of as administrator. And it'll be just shy of 7 years as a state employee, including my time as director of planning. But I just want to note for this group, it's been really great working with you, Robin and Jimmy, and really this whole Transit Choices group. You've been such a great advocacy group for transit. I think you've done a tremendous job, and I'd encourage you to continue. Please continue to advocate for good transit. You guys, we can't speak loud enough, right? And I just want to say I appreciate all of you. It's a hard transition. My family and I have a wife and 2 young kids. and my dog Pancakes, we will be traveling, taking a road trip across the country at the end of June, crossing the border, and then I'll be starting there mid-July, but quite an adventure awaits. So that said, I do want to note that so Holly Arnold, who is on the call, will be stepping in as acting administrator. Most of you know Holly. She's absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't be more thrilled for Holly to take the helm. So Holly, I'll just kind of kick it to you for any words.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and I guess, on behalf of the agency, I guess I can do that now. Want to just say like a huge thank you to Kevin, right? I mean, all of you know Kevin very well. I've been lucky enough to work with him the whole time he's been at MTA, and I've just, such a great leader and mentor and friend, and he's very much going to be missed in this region and this agency. And I'm so excited to see what he's going to do in Vancouver. It's already an amazing city, and he's going to make it even better. So yeah, just a few thoughts for me. I have so many thoughts right now. It's been a whirlwind couple of days. But thanks to Kevin's leadership, we have such a strong foundation at MTA, right? Like all of the things that he just presented today, everything that Tom presented today, we're going to build off of that, right? Like we're in a great position with a strong foundation, and thanks to our federal delegation, we've got a lot of money right now. And so that's a good problem to have. And I'm looking forward to kind of taking the helm and continuing to build off of what we've built so far. I think my biggest focus, first thing, is just going to really be how do we
at home, because I have another place.
Somebody's not muted.
No,
Loretta.
It's how do we bring riders back, right? Now that vaccinations are rolling out and folks are returning to the office, right? I've started going in a couple days a week. How do we make sure that people feel comfortable on our buses and our trains and know that they're safe? I've been riding a few days a week. I feel very safe doing it, and just want to make sure that the people are considering transit as they're coming back. Along with that, the transit and the travel pattern changes that Tom has mentioned, how do we accommodate those? How do we change our service to make sure that we're ready for riders when they come back? And, those folks who haven't tried it before, can we convince them to try, new fare things? How do we speed up our service? We have amazing partners in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Arundel County. And so can we build off of the success that we had with the RTP to put in dedicated lanes, transit signal priority, speed up the train on Howard Street? So those are kind of some of the things I'm thinking. Along with state of good repair, I think I always beat the drum of state of good repair and making sure that we're set up for long-term success and reliability and safety of our system. So it's just a few things I have. I'm really looking forward to, I've had the opportunity to present to this group, several times, and I look forward to doing that again. And you guys know how to reach me, shoot me an email. I'm interested in input and feedback. Call me, catch me on the 94, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you.
thank you, Holly. Before we open the floor to questions, Kevin, on behalf of the Transit Choices Coalition, we wish you tremendous success in Vancouver. I hope you know how dearly you're going to be missed, and also how much we have appreciated the partnership and collaboration. We do feel very fortunate, that you have, really surrounded yourself with a wonderful team of dedicated professionals. And so I think that you are sort of leaving all of us in very capable hands. Holly, we love working with you. We look forward to also continued partnership and collaboration and supporting, your efforts to push the transit agenda forward. So with that said, I'd like to open the floor to questions. I know that there were some questions in the chat. I asked people to sort of refrain until the conclusion of the
and then we will come back for media interviews with Kevin. I'm sure media will want to talk.
Let's see who is. Father Michael, if you're still with us, would you like to ask your question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I've been using the Tom card for years, and I love it. Will the Tom card, with Tom benefits of the Tom Pass, be the same for the Tom card? One benefit of the card itself is you don't have to worry about charging the battery overnight. I tend to forget to charge my cell phone, and quite often my wake in the morning is down to zero or pretty low. I don't have that problem with the Tom card.
So I can take this. So Father Michael, so on the unfortunate thing is we can only do it on the Charm Pass on the cell the cell phone app. And so the primary reason for that is that the technology behind the Charm card and the rest of our fare system is quite honestly just pretty outdated. I talked at the last I did talk at the last meeting, I think, about our new fare collection project. So we do have that underway, which would give us the ability to do this on the Charm card, to issue those types of 3 and 10-day passes, say at a fare box or a ticket vending machine. But unfortunately, the technology that we have right now doesn't support that on the Charm card. So we are only able to offer that on the Charm Pass. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Danielle?
Hey, yeah, I had a question for Tom about the crowding monitoring thing on the transit app. Is that going to include school trippers?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any separate buses just for school trippers. So our entire fleet will be it's with the Bus USA system is being, the newer technology is being installed. So we'll be able to have this ability on all the coaches, regardless if it's a school tripper, an express route, or a CityLink line.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Do we have any other questions, comments, feedback?
I'd like to say something, Robin.
Sure, Jimmy.
Kevin, I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to work with you over these years, and what a great leader you've been. I feel like the citizens of Baltimore didn't appreciate you enough, not through any fault of your own, but because you were working with such limited resources. And of course, the whole red line cancellation created a certain bitterness about the MTA and the Governor Hogan. But you have been an exemplary leader, and the way you listen and respond non-defensively, the fact that you have assembled such a great team around you, I really am grateful that we have that. And I'm grateful that you're going on to new experiences, because you certainly deserve it. And I look forward to working with Holly and the rest of your team. And I just want to say thank you. I think you've been great.
Thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. We do, for what it's worth, we do have an amazing team at MTA. And I know that this group, primarily sees some of the more public-facing folks, Holly, Tom, and others. But, between, Sean Adgerson, our Chief Operating Officer, Mike Helta, our Chief Innovation Officer, a series of others that are behind the scenes doing amazing work. I guess I would just want to reassure everybody that it's a team that really cares, and that absolutely works their butts off. I mean, people are emailing late at night on issues, addressing concerns. I mean, it's a group that's trying really damn hard to improve transit in the city. And so please know that these folks are working hard. Our operators, they work their butts off. Our mechanics are putting in extra hours to be sure buses get on the street. Our frontline employees have been just breathtakingly amazing during the pandemic. And so the team at MTA is a good one. There's a lot of chatter every now and then on Facebook and other stuff about, MTA doesn't care or stuff like that. And I just want to convey, we do. MTA does care, and this leadership team absolutely cares.
Joe?
I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself first. All the accolades that are necessary have already been expressed, but I'll just have to say, whether it's Kevin or whether it's Holly, I'm pretty sure that we're all in good hands, and the transition will be seamless. So, my hat's off to both of you for your public service. and you know, how exciting things are right now in transit with the Biden administration, that is a commuter himself, that will most likely provide providing the intergovernmental funding, which is more important than plans. If you have money, you have power to do something. So once the money comes and the cooperation between the different levels occurs, that's great. Now, I just want, in the spirit of linkages, and I'm quite excited about this announcement on Bike to Work Day, because one of the things I focused on recently was the Washington Partnership's E&Y study about the ROI associated with greening areas. Of course, that's tied to rails and trails, and it's tied to linkages, okay? And they said with just additional 10 miles, they would complete a whole kind of green network that would help with intermodality. So again, I'm excited to hear about this biking thing, because I do think biking, or interpedal, intermodality, I like to coin the term interpedal, but it's actually a word on Wikipedia, so I can't really claim it, right? But the way I use it is a little different, and I call it the last eighth of a mile that people use to get from one place to another in transition. That's called their feet, okay? So it's an important issue. So in regards to that study, I don't want to take over the screen at all, but mapping would be very important. I'm not going to do it. Everyone knows where this area is. Between where Westport is and where the that bridge is going into Covington, and what you'll see just north of that and east of that is a tremendous amount of rail with a lollipop kind of visual to it. It's the lollipop that goes down the key highway. The one thing that that plan is missing from Ernst & Young through the Washington Partnership is a linkage between Westport through that rail network into Fort McHenry and or Riverside Park, Federal Hill, and to the promenade and riding a bike. Now, why do I say this? Because I've been riding about 200 miles a month now, trying to go where I could go, and almost got killed on the bridge. What's that bridge called? Hanover? Okay. And I'm not saying to close down that bridge. I'm saying to zero in on this area and look for a path that you may be able to get to even go to Port Covington without going to Westport, to make the Port Covington connection better. Because if it's such a big, low-hanging piece of fruit for the city, and it has been from a transit point of view, then great. The other conceptual thing that I'm not even going to ask for an answer to right now, there are two focus areas for me: intermodality of Baltimore, okay, and the other one is connectivity between Baltimore and DC. And the concept is, if you're willing to rent a home and you're willing to rent an office space, and both of those have good ROIs, how do you focus your transit on rent that you achieve that has an ROI as well? Think of moving products and things as having an ROI, right? And then you can think of the prioritized projects. So first was more of a on the bike loop and green parks, which I think will help. The other one is a bigger issue. I don't even want to have you guys address it because there's not enough time, but it's just one that I've been thinking about a lot. All right.
Thank you, Joe. Anna?
Thanks, Joe.
Anna had a question with
Yeah,
respect.
Hi, yeah, the displays at the light rail stations that tell you when the next train is coming, they're not working. And I'm wondering if there's any plan to get that fixed, sometime soon. Because the app is not always, or not the app, the website that you can go to just, to find out when the next train is coming. That's pretty reliable, but it's nice when you get to the station just to see that, the next train to Cromwell is going to be in 10 minutes or whatever.
Yep. So, so I'll take this, and then Holly, feel free to chime in if you have more information than I do. But so the bottom line issue is that right now, we're in the process of getting our light rail vehicles rehabbed. So, we have about $150 million project, $163 million for all of our light rail vehicles to be completely refurbished. And we're about halfway through. We have about 28 of our 53 vehicles in the light rail fleet that have been refurbished and are in service. So the issue is we're running kind of, I don't want to say two fleets right now, but two fleet technologies. And what we're having to do is install new communication routers, if you will, that can put out a real-time signal that can also communicate with those signs. And so you're right, they're not functioning well right now. I think for us, we're trying to get some of these routers also installed on the older legacy vehicles as well. So the bottom line is, not all of our trains, because we're in this rehab process, have the functioning routers on there. We are working with the rehab manufacturer to get those installed on them as fast as possible, because we recognize that those light rail vehicles aren't putting out accurate signals. I was walking on Howard Street just the other day, and it was like there was the train, the bus, the light rail shuttle that we have picking up and down was working on real time, but then I went to another part of the system and it wasn't working. And so right now it is kind of hit or miss. The other, so I guess my bottom line is we're working on it. I think it's going to be a few months away. I don't think this is an immediate fix, because we've got to hit every single one of those trains. And then we are also working on being sure that the bus bridge buses have that real-time signal. The issue there has to do with having a GTFS that's created for the bus bridge route. So in other words, that bus bridge is not a traditional MTA route. We have to build that GTFS. We have that in production right now, recognizing that this light rail shuttle is going to be a long-term thing. So that GTFS is in production. We're hoping to roll that out very, very soon. And then once that's in production, we can connect the vehicle to that route. And so from a technology perspective, it can marry up, and that bus bridge will be on the app.
Okay, can I ask a kind of related question about it said that there's in the emails, it says there's a train shuttle between Camden Yards and Falls Road. So
Yes.
basically, if you were to get on at Cromwell, you'd have to get off at Camden Yards, either take the bus bridge or the shuttle train to Falls Road, and then get on another train to go farther north. Is that correct?
That's right. So the way we've set it up is kind of, you arrive at say Camden, you could take whatever comes first. It could be the bus bridge, it could be the light rail shuttle. The key, and I think it's a really great point that you and Brian are making, is that essentially neither of those are really available right now from a real-time perspective. Mm-hmm. And you're right. And so we've recognized that as a real weakness in the process right now, and it is we're actively scrambling to try to get that fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
There's a question in the chat asking the MTA to review ADA compliance related to announcements, both visual and audio. And also a thanks to all that you do for transit riders.
Yeah. Tom, can you speak to this? Tom's our previous ADA.
Yeah.
Guy.
So from my understanding, with the announcements, again, with the newer technology, we're updating our audio announcements, which is a requirement for the ADA. Visual announcements are not an ADA requirement. It's only the audio announcements on board the coaches that are. I know we do have the newer, we do have updated technologies with the screens, and we're working on what type of content we could put on that. But yeah, if there's any individual issue with any coaches, I know, folks can put in a complaint essentially and let us know what bus may have malfunctioning audio announcements. And then we can, make sure we address that. And that's where you get the bus number, the block number, and other relevant information on the day and time. And, our bus maintenance group gets that information and makes sure that all the systems are hooked up properly, and it has the latest announcement file and all that. So yeah, I would just say to continue, reporting, helping us report that. I know operators also provide feedback forms for this too. But again, with, 750 buses, if there's issues with a couple of them, we we want to know as best we can.
Thank you. I have a question with respect to preparing for ongoing service changes, and that is, do you coordinate with Baltimore City DOT regarding the Charm City Circulator? In other words, are you working kind of in tandem with them or in partnership with them to, you know, to address routes and coverage, that type of thing?
Yeah, and Kevin, I don't know if I could take this one, because yes, I mean, the answer is certainly yes. Like Kevin and Holly said, we've established and even enhanced our relationship with Baltimore City DOT. They have a great leadership team. They have a great team over there that we work with all the different nuances, everything from the, you know, the emergency BGE work that we're, you know, scrambling to, you know, try to make diversions, all the way to planning for long-term improvements. And Robin, like you said, with the Charm City Circulator, they're going to be working on a transit development plan. And my team has been working with City DOT folks to better understand how we can coordinate service levels, schedules. You know, we have a lot of duplication. And this Charm City Circulator, they also have slightly smaller coaches too. So we want to make sure that we can work in partnership and try to understand, you know, what is the mission, what is the purpose of the circulator? I know that's always gone back and forth from its inception, and really working in tandem and not, you know, taking riders from one to another with a lot of the duplication. So yeah, in short, the answer is yes. We have been and will continue to work with them as they're making any modifications to the Charm City Circulator. And then of course, we'll you know, be making modifications to our routes depending on what that plan looks like.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. We have time for one more question. Alrighty then, we are pretty close to schedule. It is 9:28. Jimmy, would you like to offer any closing remarks?
Just more thanks to Kevin. I really,
Thank you,
I can't thank you enough for the job you've done, and how great it has been to work with you.
Great to work with you all. Thank you.
I wish we could give you a round of applause. Can you give virtual applause?
You can all do virtual.
I know.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the wonderful presentation that you gave. We will be sharing your presentation and the recording with our Transit Choices Coalition participants. Kevin, we wish you the best of luck. We won't say goodbye. You know, we look forward to staying in touch. Holly, we look forward to Kevin passing the baton to you and to, you know, again, continuing our partnership and close working relationship as we move forward. To each of you, we say it all of the time, but it bears repeating. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, engagement, and interest in the work we're doing to advocate for better public transit for our communities and all of the citizens of Baltimore. We hope you have a wonderful day. Stay engaged, and we look forward to being in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.